Hey, Sean, I'm very excited about this because I think we cracked the code to being able to make something work that I've wanted to make work for a long time. So, quick backstory, we're producing a children's show for YouTube called Our Little World. And I've partnered with my friend Sarah Hassing, who's an amazing early childhood educator, and she's put together the formula for the show, and it's going to have such an awesome value for kids and their families, and it's going to do great things for our community. We're very, very excited. The problem is, if we look at the cost of an episode, even at its most barest of bones, if we bring in 4 people, we bring in 2 camera ops, a sound person, and a photographer, we're looking at around $4,000. $4,000 to produce it. And so if we want to do 6 episodes, which is our goal for this first flight, to be able to do some workshopping and some focus groups to see what people like, what they don't like, where it could be improved, we're looking at $25,000 roughly just to do this flight of episodes and pay the crew. And that's with everything else being volunteer, which we're hoping our hosts, our experts, and all the kids participate on a volunteer basis. But we want the crew to be compensated for this. And that doesn't include the editing, which I would do. So bare bones cost, time aside, Sarah and I not getting paid at all, around $25,000. That's not money that I have in cash, liquid, hanging around, especially during this quarantine when there's no cash flow whatsoever. That's not money I have to invest in this. And so we wanted a system that we could share the risk and the reward with the contractors who are part of this, because I talked to several people who were eager to just volunteer and be a part of it. Like, yeah, I would love to work on that. And I'm not comfortable not compensating people, but I wanted to find a way where we could work together. And if there's success, which I'll get to with the 3 things that make this possible, but if there's success, I want that to be shared with all of the people who helped bring it to life and all the people who took the risk and advanced their time in exchange for the future revenue that could come from this project. So essentially, the system is this simple. If you work on an episode for a day, coming out and filming, recording sound, doing photography, you get a credit. And then of all the revenue that we make, a portion of that is set aside for this pool of contractors, and it's divided by the total number of credits, and each person gets that number of credits worth of that money. And so as a quick example, I put together some numbers here. So we've got potential monthly revenue on the top left here. We've got the revenue distribution on the top right, and then here's the contractor royalty system on the bottom. And so what I want to explain real quick is that the way we have the revenue distributed is that Sarah gets 20% as the executive director. I get 30% as the executive producer. We're setting aside about 25% for admin and donations, and then 25% of the revenue is set aside for the contractors. So if we do 1 episode and we have 4 people work on it, let's say Leslie, Charlie, Sandy, and Chris, each of them get 1 credit, which means a total of 4 credits, and when divided by 1, they each get 25%. And so of this $100, $25, 25% goes into the pool, and that gets split up 4 ways, so they each get $625, which in a year turns which in a year turns into $75, and in 2 years is $150. And that's if we get 10,000 views a month on this show, which I'll get to. I don't think is going to be the case. But if we do 6 episodes, so we'll say Leslie and Charlie each do 6, Sandy and Chris do 4, Alex and Blake each do 2. Now we've got 24 credits in the pool, and so this $25 gets divided by 24, and depending on how many of those 24 you have, that determines your revenue. So still getting 25% each are Leslie and Charlie, and then Sandy and Chris get smaller pieces, and then finally Alex and Blake. And where this system has potential is as this grows. Right now, we've got a pretty paltry, I think our CPM's generous, but we've got a pretty paltry view count. If this succeeds, and let's say we get, just for fun, 200,000 views. Now we're making $1,200 a month with a $6 CPM, and you can see that this turns into $75 a month for Leslie and Charlie, which over the course of a year is $900, and over the course of 24 months is $1,800, which is more than a single day rate would have been. But where this really has potential is as it continues to grow over time and these numbers grow, instead of being locked into a single percentage forever, you grow with it. And so long as your credits have not expired with our 24-month limit, how we're putting it for right now, we'll be in good shape and you'll continue to get more and more. So the 3 things that make this work are as follows. Number 1, it has to be a good idea. And I don't just mean a good idea, but tested with an audience, looking at other examples of what makes a successful show. And for us, the space for children's programming, if it's done well, has a whole lot of potential for revenue. And some of the top creators in this space, which are outliers, but Blippi was one example we looked at. And even with conservative CPM estimates, he's making somewhere between $60,000 and $950,000 a month on ad revenue. And so if we're saying we're making $1,200 a month, there's potential here to be making $50 million a month, which would be $300,000, which is in the middle of his range. But just as an example, if that happens, the monthly revenue coming to these contractors is insane. But in order for it to reach this value, this content has to go out there and marinate and grow. And so by being patient and advancing the time, if the contractors advance us their time to participate, knowing that the revenue will come later, it enables a whole lot more earning potential for the people. And that's it. We want to build a team. We want to build a family in this. I'm going to take this down to 5 million just so I don't distract myself. The second thing that we're going to need is buy-in. We need participation. We need people who believe in the idea, who have taken the time to vet it. We're not going to approach someone quickly. We want to build a team here that comes back, because if each of these people does one episode one time and we end up with 30 contractors, the way our system's built, everyone's going to make such a little amount of money. What we want to do is build a team, build a family, like some of the classic shows, like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers, who had a crew, who went out and did things as a crew, and they built things, and they were friends. And it wasn't just like, hey, who's free this week? We'll hire whatever independent contractors. There's pieces of that, but we want to build a team who believes in the show, and we want to share the revenue with this team. And so getting that buy-in is really important, and that helps us keep the crew relatively small so that we're not splitting it so far down that it's not worth it for people. And so depending on what these numbers are, if we take this down, let's say 300,000 just for fun, where now we've got this sort of reasonable amount. If we start to add in, let's say we get some Patreon, we sell some merch, let's say we get a sponsorship, whatever these numbers are, any revenue that comes into the show is going to go through the contractor pool percentage. Nothing's going to, like, if somebody wants to sponsor the show or donate, it's not like we're going to put that toward one thing. Everything we're going to insist comes through so that the contractors get their cut of the revenue always. And that brings us to number one. The thing that's going to make this work for us is transparency. And the way that we're building it is we're showing our percentages up front of Sarah as the director and the brainchild behind all of this. She'll get a 20% cut. Myself as the executive producer, and I'll be personally editing all the episodes for the time being. I'm going to take 30% of the revenue, and then again, 25% we want to donate at least 5%, setting aside 20% for taxes and administrative, advertising, things like that. And then this contractor pool gets 25%. And so each month we're going to make all this available to anyone who's supporting us, both anyone who's giving us money, like on our Patreon or something like that, where we want them to see where their money's going, and we want our contractors to know that nothing's going past them or anything like that. We want to be completely open about it to make this work, because we don't want people to feel like they're being screwed, and we don't want to screw people. So we want to be open about it the whole time so that people know what they're getting into when they agree to it, and there's no funny business around it. And the other thing here, let's say, again, let's go back up to 50 million. Let's say we're making some ridiculous amount of money. What Sarah and I have talked about is that in our case, and this formula can be adapted to other things, but in our case, if we're making some millions of dollars off this show, that's going to put us in a place where we feel like we're starting to depart personally from where the project is. We don't want to be millionaires. It's weird, but it's not the most important thing. And so if we get to a point where we're creating enough revenue to sustain this full time as a living, then we can start to adjust these percentages and put more into the contractor pool and share more of that, where we're still obviously taking care of ourselves and being compensated well. But if we're doing well enough, we want to share that with the contractors. And so we want to be transparent about the opportunity to adjust these as the revenue grows. And if we want to bring in more contractors, say we want to start putting in a third camera operator, we want to do VFX or animation or something like that, we're not just going to add more people to the contractor pool without adjusting the amount of revenue that we're making available for that. So as we grow the show, we want that to be the cornerstone. It is transparency, so that people can feel like they're a part of this and can give the fullest ability of their talents and their art to making this something that will be successful because they know it's going to come back and help them and the people that they work with and our viewers and actually provide good quality educational content. So the two holes that we've seen in this so far that we're working to patch is, number one, at the very beginning of this, for our show, or if this formula gets applied to something else, if there's like a comically low amount of revenue, not if, because there will be a comically low amount of revenue at the beginning, we don't necessarily want those 24 months that a credit has before it expires from the pool. We don't want that to be wasted on such a low revenue month. And so we want to set some arbitrary threshold to say that, only if we're making $100 a month are we going to count this toward the contract. Just because if for 6 months we make $5 a month, $10 a month, we don't want to divide that up and say, well, hey, that was half of, the life of your credit. We want to be as generous as we can be with it. And so holding off on payments in hopes of making them bigger payments and more money total in the future is our goal with this. And number two is our ability to adjust these percentages, but knowing that for right now, we have a very, very static formula for the production of an episode where this is the exact type of content that I've produced for years. And so I know there's no surprises. If we have these pieces, we're not going to be surprised with, oh, we need VFX. Oh, we need colorization. We're going to know what goes into this. And so we're not going to be met with surprise costs that are going to somehow take away from the contractor pool. But if we do want to change the formula in the future, we're going to make sure that we update the percentages so that way we're not just sharing the same amount of money with more people, but we're making more money available if we're increasing the production value of the show. So that is the summary of our credit system. It is not perfect, but we think we're getting pretty close. And so I want to ask you, if this is something that looks appealing to you, if you see holes in it, if you see problems that we're not seeing, we've asked several people, we're vetting it through our friends, but I want to put it out there and say, is this something that you would want to be a part of? Because I can say for me, if the system was this or something close to this, I wish I would have been called on to be a part of other people's systems so that I could be getting some sort of recurring revenue now while all of my project-based work has dried up. So if you have any thoughts, any feedback whatsoever, throw them in the comments, shoot me an Instagram message, Colonelshaun, or if you know me, text me. That's fine. I'm super excited about this, and I'm super excited to get your feedback to find out the ways that we can perfect this system and actually move forward with it and create something that we're really proud of, both for our viewers and for the team that helps create it. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.